You are not allowed to call him. Do you hear me? The sentence hit the air like a slap echoing through the marble hallway of the Whitmore estate, a place where every footstep was swallowed by a silence that had been trained into the walls. But today, silence no longer ruled. Cole Whitmore stopped in the grand foyer. Sunlight from the setting sun streamed through the glass doors, casting golden streaks across the polished stone floor. In his hand was a hand-knitted teddy bear from Italy, a gift for the daughter he had adopted 3 years ago, an 8-year-old girl named Ava Carter. Then he heard it. Not a whiny cry, but a real sob, choked, suffocated, as if it came from a throat not allowed to make a sound. He didn't call out. He didn't yell. He ran up the stairs. Ava's bedroom door was slightly ajar. He pushed it gently and stood frozen. The little girl was curled up at the edge of her bed, her back to the door, shoulders trembling. Her coarse, curly hair brushed her neck, clearly uncombed for days. Her nightgown was rumpled, and a faint bluish bruise lingered on one wrist. In her left arm, she clutched a stuffed bunny with one torn ear, the one object she never let go of. Standing between her and the doorway was Mrs. Peterson, the longtime housekeeper, her face cold as stone, her voice laced with a self-assumed authority. "Who do you think you are? A princess. This house has no place for black girls like you." Peterson took a step forward. Ava recoiled reflexively. Black children don't live in mansions, unless they're mopping floors, washing clothes, or being pitied. Ava didn't reply. She had learned how to swallow her feelings like forcing down a cube of ice into her stomach every day. "He's not your father. He's just the one who signed the papers. Just a name. And one day he'll realize you're not worth it." Peterson glanced at the stuffed bunny, smirked. "Even that raggedy toy knows it doesn't belong here." Cole heard it all. He stepped inside. Peterson turned. Her face went pale like ash. "Mr. Whitmore, what are you doing?" His voice wasn't raised, but every word was cut with the chill of steel. She was being disrespectful. I was teaching her, like I always do. Always," Cole repeated. Then his gaze swept over Ava's wrist, the bruise, then to her desk, completely bare. No drawings, no framed pictures, just an expensive room with no trace that a child had ever been welcome there. He stepped closer, knelt. Ava still didn't dare look up. Her breathing was shallow, eyes wide, as if any sudden move would get her banished from this place. "Daddy's here, Ava," he whispered. "I'm right here." She threw herself into his arms but didn't cry. She only clung to his shirt like her very existence depended on it, like she was awaiting a final verdict. Cole wrapped his arms around her. His hands trembled. Then he looked up and spoke into the intercom. "Travis, come to Ava's room. Now, escort Mrs. Peterson off the premises. Permanently. No explanation needed." Peterson opened her mouth, but Cole had already turned away, gently stroking Ava's back, repeating, "I'm here now. I'm sorry," Ava whispered, her lips pale, "for calling you. I didn't know she'd get that angry." Cole closed his eyes. That sentence hurt more than any blow. The next morning, Cole didn't go to the office. It had never happened before. His schedule was usually packed down to the minute, from meetings on the 57th floor to fundraising galas in Geneva. But today, every email received the same auto-reply: "out of office. Return date unknown." Because today he realized he had been absent for too long. even while physically present. Ava was still asleep. She was curled up under a soft gray blanket, face pressed against the bunny with the torn ear. Cole sat in the chair by the window, early sunlight spilling across his wrinkled shirt. He hadn't changed all night. He had never sat like this guarding a child's sleep, not out of worry, but out of guilt. Ava's sleep was restless. Every few minutes she jolted, clutching her stuffed animal tighter, her back arching like she was readying for a blow that wasn't there. Each time Cole whispered, "You're safe now. I'm here." But even he knew safe wasn't a phrase. It was a process. When Ava finally awoke, she sat straight up immediately. No rubbing eyes, no yawning. As if she was used to needing to be ready, so she wouldn't be yelled at. "I'm sorry I bothered you yesterday," she said softly. Cole lowered his head. "No, Ava. Never. You are never a bother. You have the right to call me. Anytime." She was silent. Then she pulled a folded sheet of paper from under her pillow and handed it to him. Wrinkled paper. Purple ink. Scribbled handwriting a child's. Things I must not do. 1. Do not laugh loudly. 2. Do not call Daddy when guests are here. 3. Do not touch the glass doors. 4. Do not leave toys outside the room. 5. Do not say I love you while Daddy is on the phone. 6. Do not ask, when will you be home? 7. Do not cry. At the bottom in smaller handwriting, if I break the rules, I'll be sent away. Cole sat motionless. His hand gripped the paper, each word pierced like a blade. She makes me read it every morning, before breakfast. How long has this been going on? Ava looked out the window. I don't remember. Maybe before Christmas. Christmas Cole remembered that day well. He had given Ava a miniature wooden playhouse. She had smiled faintly, then quietly retreated to her room after dinner. He had thought she was just shy. No, she had been programmed to believe that her presence was a burden. That very afternoon, Cole called Marcus, his most trusted assistant. "I want the full personnel file for everyone in the house. Staff schedules, internal notes, everything from the last 6 months." Marcus froze. Did something happen? Cole didn't answer right away. He placed the folded paper on the desk. Marcus read it and went pale. Peterson taught her this. Not just taught. She turned it into a ritual. Marcus clenched his fists. "What about the others?" Cole looked up, his eyes cold as steel. "I want to know who saw," and chose silence. On a sun-drenched afternoon, Cole stood alone in the vast living room where abstract paintings hung precisely on the walls, and each chair was a handcrafted Italian selection. He looked around, and suddenly he realized this house had never made room for a child. There were no traces of Ava, no drawings, no box of crayons, not even a cartoon-themed pillow on the couch. Only expensive decor, ideally suited for fundraisers, cocktail parties, and elite appearances. Everything was flawless, except the feeling of being lived in. The next morning, Marcus stepped into Cole's office with a thick file in hand. His voice dropped noticeably. "Do you want the truth?" Marcus asked. Cole nodded. "I started reviewing staff schedules, internal feedback, informal communications." He placed 3 folders on the desk. 3 people. Cole opened the first. A surveillance photo, an assistant chef standing next to a birthday cake. Beside it, a shiny gift box labeled, "To Ava." However, in the donor gift log, that item was recorded under charity contributions. No mention of Ava. The second folder, the house librarian. In an internal email, she had written, "That child touched the shelves again. I told her she doesn't need to pretend she's smart." Cole closed his eyes. He had assumed Ava didn't go to the library because she didn't like reading. And the last one, the event assistant, was referenced in 3 separate notes for calling Ava a rescue pup during internal planning meetings. One of the new staff members had handwritten a note that Marcus found in an old drawer. "That little black girl shouldn't be in front of the cameras. People will think this is a humanitarian fund." Cole said nothing. He stood up, pulled out 3 blank sheets from the drawer, and wrote by hand, line by line, name by name. No use of the word termination. Only this: "We appreciate your time with us, but the values we require are not in your skills, they are in your heart. Included were full benefits and severance support." That evening, Ava sat drawing by the window. Afternoon light fell softly on her cheeks, on the curls that Mrs. Peterson had once insisted needed to be cut short for neatness. Cole sat nearby holding a cup of tea that had long gone cold. "Ava," he began, "have you ever seen anyone else in this house make you feel sad? You don't need to say names, just yes or no." She stopped coloring. The brown crayon in her hand froze. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She just quietly nodded. A nod barely there. But to Cole, it sounded like something had shattered inside his chest. That night, he walked through every hallway of the house, studied each wall, each frame bearing photos of himself, award ceremonies, galas, politicians, CEOs. No Ava, no trace of her, as if she were merely a shadow living temporarily inside a museum of grown-ups. Cole stopped outside his daughter's door, pushed it gently. Ava was asleep. She clutched the bunny as if it were the last thing she could afford to lose. He sighed, then whispered to himself, "Tomorrow we begin again. Not with money, but with true presence." The next morning, Cole called an interior designer. "We don't need to redo everything," he said. "I just want to make this place feel like a child lives here. Drawings, colorful pillows, family photos, a reading nook, a spot to hang handmade bead bracelets that only a dad and daughter could find beautiful." The woman on the other end paused, then smiled. "Mr. Whitmore, I think. It's time this house learned how to breathe." The little girl didn't want to sit at the table, not because she was afraid, but because she wasn't sure she was allowed to. Dr. Lucille Harper gently pulled out a chair but didn't push. She was used to children like Ava. Children who didn't say no, who didn't express feelings, who never felt good enough, simply because of their skin, their past, or the silence of adults. The first session took place in the kitchen. No whiteboards, no clinical questions, no gray therapy sofas, just a wooden table, freshly baked butter cookies, and a pot of mint tea. Ava sat silently, still hugging her torn-eared bunny like it was the only thing that dared to listen. Dr. Harper told stories, slowly, gently, about a tree she planted at age 10, about a dog named Roosevelt who only barked at bicycles but never chased, and about the time she fell from a fig tree because she believed she could fly like a bird. Ava didn't laugh, but her lips moved. A soft escaped her, a sound not wrapped in defense. Cole watched from a distance. He didn't step in, but his eyes never left Ava. Dr. Harper noticed. After the session ended, she approached him. Her voice was quiet but warm. "She's not afraid, Mr. Whitmore, but she's unsure whether joy is something she's allowed to keep." Cole looked down, breathed out softly. "How do I get that back for her?" She looked at him, her gaze deep. "You don't have to get it back. Just be there when it returns." By the third session, Ava brought a drawing. A baby lion with wide eyes and a messy mane sat beside a man in a suit with large arms holding the lion in a gentle embrace. "Who's this?" Dr. Harper asked. Ava pointed to the lion. "That's me. And the man, my adoptive dad." "Why does the lion look worried?" Ava hesitated, then whispered like a breeze slipping through a door. "Because he's learning to believe that he's not a mistake." That night, Cole sat on the sofa holding the drawing in his lap. Ava was asleep, but her words still rang in his mind. Learning to believe that he's not a mistake. He realized love is not a gift. It's a responsibility, one that should never be placed on a child to carry. The following week, Cole sat across from Dr. Harper in a small reading room. Ava wasn't present. "She's making progress," Dr. Harper said, "but she still carries an unnamed fear, a kind of body memory. Kids like Ava don't remember every word, but they remember the feeling." "And me," Cole asked, "I feel like I'm carrying someone else's guilt." "No," Dr. Harper shook her head. "You're not carrying guilt. You're reopening a door, one that someone else slammed shut on her. But if you don't name your feelings, she'll think she's the cause of your sadness." Cole closed his eyes. To name it was guilt, not for what he did, but for what he failed to see. That night, Cole sat by Ava's bed. She was asleep, breathing steadily, still holding her bunny. He whispered, "I won't repeat someone else's mistakes. I won't leave again. I'm not here to rescue you, Ava. I'm just learning how to stay." Outside the window, the night wind stirred the trees, and inside his chest, for the first time, he felt like he was stepping into a real home. Not one he had built, but one thing a little girl believed she was worthy of. It rained all night. A soft, steady rain like someone gently tapping on the window, not loud enough to disturb, but not quiet enough to be forgotten. Cole brought a cup of chamomile tea up to Ava's room, part of their new bedtime ritual. She liked something warm before sleep, something not too sweet, not too hot, and not too much like a requirement. Ava was brushing her teeth in the bathroom. She hummed a soft, wordless tune. But as Cole approached the bed to straighten her blankets, a small piece of paper slipped out from under her pillow. He bent down, thinking it might be a drawing, but it wasn't. It was a list, folded in quarters, wrinkled, written in purple felt-tip pen, small, slightly crooked handwriting. Precisely the kind of child uses when she's afraid someone might read it. Things I must not do. 1. Do not speak during meals. 2. Do not call Daddy more than 3 times a day. 3. Do not sit on the white sofa. 4. Do not use red crayons. Do not sing in the house. 6. Do not hug if Dad is talking. 7. Do not cry after 9 p.m. And underneath, in even smaller writing, if I do wrong, she will come back, and Daddy will leave. Cole sat on the edge of the bed, his heart clenched tight like someone had gripped it with cold fingers. He had fired Peterson, replaced the entire staff. But the shadow she left. He was still living under his daughter's pillow. He didn't hear the water shut off, didn't hear the sound of bare feet on carpet. Ava stepped into the room, standing quietly at the doorway. Seeing the paper in his hand, she froze. "You weren't supposed to see that," Ava whispered. Cole looked up. "Who told you to write these things?" "She did." "Peterson." Ava nodded. "Every morning. Before school. If I didn't read it out loud, she would take away the bunny." Cole stood up, then knelt in front of her. The paper was still in his hand, now wrinkled and damp from his sweating palm. "These things aren't true, Ava." She looked at him. Those dark brown eyes, so still, had learned how to hide. "I don't want her to come back. And I don't want you to go away." Her voice was smaller than a breath. "I'm not going anywhere. Not for any reason. Not for noise, not for red crayons, not for tears or a hug at 10 o'clock. I'm not leaving." Ava stared at him for a moment, then quietly stepped forward, wrapped her arms around his neck, resting her head on his shoulder. "But I'm still scared," she said. She said love isn't something you get to keep. It's something you have to earn by being good enough. Cole closed his eyes. A single tear slid down the back of her neck. She was wrong. You don't have to be good to be loved. You only have to be you, and that's already more than enough. That night, Ava slept in his arms like a small bird curled up, breathing steadily but still flinching gently every time thunder rolled through the sky. And Cole, he sat there the whole night, eyes wide open, staring at the list she had written. The rules an adult once etched into the soft, clay-like memory of an 8-year-old child. He knew what he had to do. The next morning, Cole called Marcus to his office. "I need to find a child trauma specialist. Not to treat her, to help me understand. For Ava, for both of us." Marcus nodded. "You mean integrated therapy, not therapy." Cole clenched his hand. "Detox. She needs to know that every lie that woman planted in her head won't live forever. And you..." Cole looked out the window where the young oak tree they'd planted the week before swayed in the wind. "I need to learn how to listen, even when she says nothing." 3 days later, Marcus walked into Cole's office with a USB drive and a printed packet from the internal security system. "Are you sure you want to see all of this?" he asked, his voice heavy. "Some of it. It isn't easy to take." Cole didn't answer. He only nodded. The screen lit up with still images from the house's security cameras, hallways, staircases, the living room. But what made Cole's throat tighten wasn't the image. It was the gaps. On days when Peterson was on duty, especially the time when Ava would return from school. The surveillance system near her bedroom was routinely disabled for 20 to 30 minutes, regularly, predictably, as if someone knew exactly where the cameras were and how to avoid being seen. Marcus spoke softly. "We couldn't recover footage from inside during the signal drop, but the pattern matches." 37 times. Cole closed his eyes. His hand resting on the table trembled slightly. "What did she do to her?" he asked. "We don't know. But she always turned off the light before that time, and she never opened the door." That night, Cole sat in the family room where Ava was working on a puzzle. No TV, no music, only the soft sound of cardboard pieces clicking together. "Can I ask you something?" Cole said gently. Ava nodded without looking up. "Did she ever tell you not to talk to me?" Ava stopped. After a long moment, she placed a piece down carefully and whispered, "She said, if I told you, you'd be sad. You'd get tired, and I'd ruin your work." Cole took a deep breath, keeping his throat from closing. He knelt beside her and looked directly into those deep brown eyes. "There is nothing you could say that would make me go away. No feeling you have is too much for me to carry. And if someone needs to be let go so that you can feel safe, I'll do it. 10 times over." Ava looked at him. Then I placed the final piece of the puzzle. A complete picture came into view. A giraffe stands beneath a large tree canopy. She tilted her head. "Even if I do something wrong, can I still tell the truth?" "There's no wrong in sharing pain," Cole replied, his hand resting gently on her back. "The wrong is when grown-ups don't listen." That night, Cole didn't sleep. He reread every old email between household managers and the security team, every staffing report he had once overlooked, because he assumed someone else was handling it. But Ava had no one to handle it for her. The next morning, he sent a memo across the entire Whitmore Foundation system. "We cannot change the past, but we can make sure children like Ava never have to stay silent, just to be loved." The following week, an art therapy room was set up on the grounds of the estate. No signage, no whiteboards, just a warm-toned room with soft colors, wooden floors, easels, textured paper, modeling clay picture books, and a large blackboard with a message in white chalk. "This is where your voice can come out and play." Ava stepped in, looked around, said nothing. But the next day she returned, with her lion drawing. At the same time, Cole began calling elementary schools abuse recovery centers and foster support programs across the region. "Not sponsorship," he said. "I want to listen." He was no longer the CEO who showed up when cameras were rolling. He became a man holding his daughter's handwritten list. As a promise. No child should ever have to write down the things they're afraid of. On the small table inside the newly built art room, Ava was stringing green beads one by one. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were focused like she was carrying out a critical mission. "What are you making?" Cole asked as he walked in holding 2 glasses of apple juice. "A bracelet for Ms. Harper," Ava replied without looking up. "She likes green, and green is peaceful." Cole smiled. He placed 1 glass next to her and sat down beside her. "Does she help you feel peaceful?" Ava nodded, then paused. She looked into her father's eyes, hesitated for a moment, and asked, "Do you think people can change? Like, change from the inside?" Cole stayed silent for a beat. It wasn't a question most 8-year-olds would ask, but Ava had never been a typical child. He answered slowly, "I think. People can change, but only if they truly want to, and if they understand why they need to change." Ava blinked, then softly asked, "So, have you changed?" Cole didn't answer right away. He looked at his daughter, then glanced down at his wrist where a beaded bracelet she had made was still wrapped, a quiet reminder of everything that mattered. "I think I'm changing," he said, "every day. Every time you trust me enough to tell me something, I change a little more." The next day, when Dr. Harper arrived for their weekly session, Ava brought a small velvet pouch. "I have something for you," Ava said, and placed the bracelet into her hands. Dr. Harper held it gently, then smiled. "A gift from the heart," she said, "and a symbol of something that's starting to heal." That afternoon, Cole did something he hadn't done since Ava entered his life. He asked to attend the therapy session. Not to speak, to listen. Dr. Harper agreed. The three of them sat in a bright room filled with Ava's drawings, rainbows, lions, a tree sprouting roots, and a house with two people standing on the porch. Ava. Dr. Harper corrected herself with a smile. "If there's something you've always wanted your dad to know, but never felt ready to say, maybe today, you can try." Ava looked down. She fidgeted with the sleeve of her lemon-yellow hoodie, the one Cole had bought in the wrong size, thinking all 8-year-olds wore the same youth small. After a long moment, Ava whispered, "I used to want to tell everything, but then I got scared. I was scared that if you knew it all, you'd think I was too much." Cole felt like someone had grabbed his chest and squeezed hard. He steadied his voice. "There is nothing about you that is too much for me. No story makes you less worthy. You don't have to be perfect to be loved." Ava lifted her head. Her eyes were wet, but this time there was no fear in them. "I just don't want to be the one who bothers people anymore," she whispered. Cole opened his arms. Ava stepped into them, curled into his lap, her head resting against his chest. After the session, Dr. Harper stood with Cole on the front porch. "She's healing," she said. "Not just because she's loved, but because she believes that love isn't going anywhere." Cole looked into the distance. The sky was soft with dusk streaked with rose-colored clouds. "I've never been the best father," he said quietly. "Who is right from the start?" Dr. Harper smiled. "But the difference is you didn't give up. And for a child, that's enough to begin again." That night, Cole found the list Ava had once hidden under her pillow. The list of don'ts: don't sing, don't cry, don't ask for anything. He stepped outside and lit a small lighter. The paper caught from one corner, curling inward as it turned to ash. He let the ashes go, released into the breeze, soft, like the silence Ava once learned to survive inside. She had been standing behind him for a while. "What was that, Dad?" Cole turned gently. "Those were things that no longer belong to us." Ava said nothing. She stepped forward and took his hand. And in that moment, neither of them spoke, but both could hear the sound of freedom beginning to bloom in the place where fear once lived. That day, Ava sat by the window painting with watercolors. She used lots of yellow, the color Mrs. Peterson had once forbidden as too bright. Now Ava blended it with orange and pink, brushed it boldly across the sky in her painting. It was as if she were testing the light again. Cole stood behind her holding an untouched cup of coffee. He didn't interrupt. He just watched and saw something he had once missed. His daughter was learning how to exist, without asking permission. Late that afternoon, Cole got a call from an old friend at the Department of Family and Child Services. We're holding a hearing at the state senate, the voice said. The topic is internal oversight of private foster placements. They'd like you to speak. Cole hesitated. Not as a billionaire, the friend added, but as a father. He looked out to the yard where Ava was pushing her swing, her hair lifting in the sun. And Ava, he asked, would they want to hear from her? We wouldn't dare ask. But if Ava's willing, the voice of a child sometimes weighs more than a law. That evening, Cole sat down with Ava. I'm going to share our story, not for pity, but so people wake up. But I won't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. Ava thought for a moment, then said quietly, I'll go, but only if I get to choose what I say. Of course, Cole nodded. And if you get tired, just squeeze my hand 3 times, I'll take over. Ava smiled. Like a spy signal. Exactly. Cole laughed. We're a team. On the day of the hearing, Ava wore a yellow floral dress. On her wrist was the green beaded bracelet she made for Dr. Harper. She carried her stuffed lion now with its ear carefully stitched in silk, a reminder that what was once torn could be mended. The chamber was packed. Cameras, recorders, rows of senators and reporters. But when Ava entered with Cole, a hush fell, as if something true was about to be said. Cole spoke first. He told them about the seemingly perfect days and how he discovered his daughter had lived in darkness under the lights of a $1 million mansion. He spoke of the list Ava wrote the disabled cameras, the fear of a child who believed that telling the truth was a crime. There is no chart to measure the cost of silence, he concluded, but I promise you it costs more than any administrative mistake you'll ever debate. Then it was Ava's turn. She stepped up, standing behind a microphone just taller than her head. Cole bent down to adjust it. Ava took a deep breath, clutched her lion. My name is Ava, she said, her voice small but steady. I used to think that if I stayed quiet, I could stay. But now I know telling the truth isn't the wrong thing. A stillness spread through the chamber. I don't remember everything she said, but I remember how it felt small, unimportant, replaceable. She lifted her head. But now I have a dad who doesn't leave. Someone who believes I don't have to be good to be kept. I have to be me. After the hearing, reporters asked questions. Senators expressed thanks. But Ava didn't pay attention. She held Cole's hand and tugged him away. Tired? He asked. Ava shook her head. I want ice cream and waffles. And if it's okay, today I want to watch cartoons without the sound turned off. Deal. Cole smiled. Today is your day. That night when they returned home, Ava looked up at the oak tree in the yard, the one they had planted together the month before. Do you think, she asked, did it hear what I said? Cole gave her hand a gentle squeeze. Yes. And the wind will carry it farther than that room ever could. Ava nodded, then turned and walked into the house, not running, not hugging the wall, but walking straight ahead, as if the house had never once questioned whether she belonged. I think I want to write a book, Ava said it one quiet evening, as the two of them sat in the kitchen eating warm chocolate chip cookies and drinking warm milk. The words came out softly, but they made Cole pause mid-bite. About what he asked. Ava smiled. About how I learned to speak up again, not shouting, but the kind where you speak and people see you. Cole looked at his daughter, 8 years old. once taught that her existence had to be granted permission, and now she wanted to teach others how not to go silent. He nodded. Then let's start. I'll be your typist. Ava tilted her head. And you'll be the cute supporting character. Okay, supporting. Yeah, because the main character is my voice. And so weekends began to take on a new color. No more business trips, no more Zoom meetings. Just a father, a child, and the first chapters of a little book titled Ava's Voice. Ava told stories. Cole typed. She remembered the green beaded bracelet, the rule about not laughing too loud, and the first time she ever dared to say, "I want you to stay." She illustrated the pages, a little girl with cloud-like curls and a yellow hoodie that read, "Loud Inside." When the manuscript was finished, Cole called a friend at a small publishing house. "We don't need a bestseller," he said. "We just need this book to reach the hands that need it most." In August, Ava's Voice was born. A thin, colorful softcover book distributed to school libraries and childcare centers across the state. The day Ava held her first printed copy, she hugged it tightly to her chest. Then whispered, "Now I exist." Cole wrapped his arms around her. "You've always existed. Now the world gets to see it too." Autumn came, a light breeze. The Whitmore home felt warmer than ever, not because of the fireplace, but because of laughter echoing through its corners. One night as they were clearing the table after dinner, Ava looked up and asked Dad, "Are we doing Thanksgiving like every other year?" Cole nodded. "Of course. Turkey pumpkin pie, even your sweet potato dish from last year." Ava giggled, then added, her voice softer, "But I want to do it a little differently. Different how I want to invite people who don't have anywhere to go. Kids waiting to be adopted. New families. People. Like I was last year." Cole didn't answer right away. His heart clenched not from sorrow, but from a pride so deep it made his eyes sting. "We'll open our doors," he said. "Not just our home, our hearts too." Word spread quickly through adoption networks and community support groups. There were no banners, no corporate sponsors, just one hand-painted wooden sign out front. "If you're here, you're welcome." That day, the Whitmore backyard was filled with laughter. Long tables with checkered cloths, steaming pies, string lights draped between the oaks. Children ran around the tree Ava and Cole had planted that spring, now tall enough to reach an adult's waist. Cole stood at the edge of the yard, his eyes always following Ava. She dashed from table to table, handing out stickers. Each person received a small label that read, "Your family today." At the end of the gathering, Ava climbed onto a small wooden stage meant initially for thank you remarks. The microphone waited. Ava held her lion in one hand, a folded sheet of paper in the other. But then, she folded the paper again. "I'm not reading this," she said. "I'm going to speak the truth, the way Dad taught me." She looked down at the faces turned up to her adults' children, even some who had cried during their first bite of turkey because it was their first authentic family meal in years. Ava took a breath. "I used to think Thanksgiving was about food, but now I think it's about knowing you weren't forgotten. And if you're here today, it means someone sees you." She smiled. "And I'm glad I get to see you." Applause rose not loud, but full of gratitude, full of truth. Cole stepped up and hugged her. Ava whispered, "Dad, Do you think we could do this every year? As long as you want, sweetheart, he said. That night, after everyone had gone, father and daughter stood beneath the oak tree, cocoa in hand, the string lights still blinking between its branches. I don't want to forget this feeling, Ava said. Then we'll remind each other. Cole replied, not to remember what happened before, but to remember what came after. Sunday morning. The sky was clear like freshly cleaned glass. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, brushing Ava's cheeks, no longer marked by the shadows of nightmares. Cole stood beside her, holding a spade. His old shirt was muddy on the sleeves. In the east garden, where the soil had been tilled, stood a young white oak, waist-high, with firm roots and bright green leaves. What's this one called? Ava asked, holding a small wooden sign. Quercus alba, Cole replied. White oak, symbol of resilience and endurance. Ava nodded. Endure, then grow. Together they planted the tree in the ground. Ava held the trunk steady while Cole filled in the soil around it. Each time his hand brushed hers, it became smaller, thinner, yet stronger every day. When the tree stood upright, Ava planted the wooden sign next to its roots. In a permanent marker, she had written, "For the children who haven't grown up yet." After lunch, Ava quietly stepped into Cole's study, where he was reviewing a document from the Department of Family Services. "Dad," she said softly, "can I ask something? Always. If one day I'm not here anymore. Like if I have to go somewhere else. I mean, if something ever happens to you." Cole set the file down. He turned his chair to face her, those eyes so young and yet so seasoned, staring back. "No, Ava. No matter what happens, you stay. I've made sure of it. The people who love you, who understand you, they'll always be here." Ava exhaled just slightly, but Cole could see it. Another invisible door inside her, cracking open again. The next day at her session with Dr. Harper, Ava brought a new drawing. 2 stick figures standing inside a big heart. One tall, one small, hand in hand. Beneath it she had written, "We are home." Dr. Harper smiled. "Looks like your heart is full." Ava nodded. "But there's still room." For whom Ava looked at Cole. "Maybe another child. Someone who needs to be heard too." Cole paused. His heart clenched, not with sorrow this time, but with pride. Because his daughter hadn't just learned to heal. She wanted to pass that healing on to others. The following week, Cole received an invitation to speak at a national symposium on post-adoption trauma and recovery. This time, he didn't say no. "We're going together," he told Ava. "And I get to speak too?" she asked. "No one could say it better than you." At the conference before experts, policymakers, and nonprofit leaders from across the country, Cole didn't begin with charts. He held up a photo, not a project, but of Ava, hair, messy face smudged with dirt hugging the base of a newly planted oak. This is why he said, "Why do we keep listening? Why do we keep asking questions? Why do we stay accountable? Because some children learn silence far too early. And if we don't teach them how to grow out loud, that silence might last forever." When they returned home, Ava had prepared a surprise for them. A card on the kitchen table read, "Welcome home, hero dad." Cole laughed, but when he looked into her eyes, he said, "The real hero is you." Ava shook her head, smiling softly. "No, we're a team. That weekend, Ava asked Dad, "Do you think we could move?" "You want to go somewhere?" Cole asked. "Not really, but maybe there's somewhere else that needs us. A small town, a city without Ava's voice yet." Cole was silent for a moment, then answered, "Home isn't a place. It's the people you carry with you." Ava nodded. "Then, let's carry home to someone else." By the following spring, the oak tree had grown as tall as Ava. Beneath it sat a new little girl, braided hair with red string hands, still trembling, coloring with Ava, sharing cookies. Cole stood a little ways off watching, and he understood their story wasn't over. It had just begun, in the heart of a child and a father learning how to love without condition. On the kitchen shelf next to the first printed copy of Ava's voice sat a small sticky note Ava had written, "We used to be two. Now we're more." Cole read it every morning and smiled.